Hey Five Spokes, this week's coaching session is about proper bike setup. Pam's going to take us through two different versions, the longer version that really gets into the how and the why, and that's something that you would use if you do a clinic or a workshop, or if your club offers Spin or Cycle 101. I'm really excited about doing this video. Yep, it's a fundamental video, but one of the reasons I'm really excited is because two things. Number one, as instructors, we know the benefits of proper bike setup, but sometimes, as Pam says, like, you can't get married to your bike setup, and it's true, because a couple weeks ago, a mutual friend of ours, she messaged me after one of the videos, and she's like, "Girls, great video, Karen, your saddle is way too low," and it wasn't just one notch too low, it was 2 notches too low. And I was like, oh, how does that happen?
And I didn't even look at it.
And
I just like took it for granted.
And this is an eagle eye right here. Pam can spot a bad setup a mile away, but
Sometimes,
apparently not.
No,
You
we're
5
too
inches,
close.
5
Exactly.
inches away.
Yeah.
Exactly. So don't get married to your bike setup. Make sure that your setup is proper, and you check in with that periodically. And also, the other thing is our mindset. We can just start to get into that kind of rote thinking and think bike setup is just for new riders. So get in the habit of, during the warm-up, or when everyone's warming up, scan the room, look for some signs that say, maybe I'll check in with this rider. I should check in with this rider after class, and just check a few things to make sure he or she is properly set up.
Yeah.
So, anything else?
I do, yeah, the fundamentals, you said this is fundamental, but really excellence is mastering the fundamentals. This is key. This is where it all starts. I don't care, any class, any movement, especially on a bike, which
Yep.
is so repetitive. It's stationary, it's rather static, you're not moving through space, but it's something that's really complex movements, multi-planes, multi-joints. That's even more critical. Setup is everything. So especially on the bike,
Yeah.
mastering those fundamentals, that can create rippling effects in terms of how they transfer
Sure.
power,
Yep.
how comfortable they are,
Form.
how long, because the form will determine their comfort, their
Yep.
efficiency, so how long they can ride. It's really key.
Yeah. And what are we doing? Like 4,000 to 6,000 revolutions, or what's that number like?
Think
for
about it. An average cadence is, from what I've read, is about 88. So whatever,
Yeah.
round that up, 90.
Yeah.
And that's one leg.
Yeah.
For a 50-minute class, it's 4,500 revolutions. So it's 9,000 to 10,000.
So not only are you
Yeah.
mastering the fundamentals, like you're good at math. That's awesome.
That was pretty easy. But it's a lot of repetition. There's a
Total.
whole industry around
Total.
ergonomics.
Yep.
Because of the things that we do repetitively and the effect that they have on
True.
your body.
True.
So
Yep.
pay attention to setup. It's such a sweet thing. As they ride more often, then it becomes even more important. For
Yeah.
someone who rides, once a week, it's important, but it's not as critical.
Yeah.
For someone who's riding 3, 4, 5 times a week.
Like say an instructor.
I know. I'm sorry.
I'm sure
It's over.
I'm sure that it was correct for, the last 9 3/4 years, and it was just off for that
Darn it.
video. Anyway, all right, fantastic. So
Okay.
how do you want me to start?
Usually if they're new, I would just keep the handlebars high. So as they come in, I would raise the handlebars just to make sure, you can ask them if they have any back problems, neck problems, shoulder problems. Obviously the handlebars are going to get a little higher. If they're used to riding, eventually the handlebars will go in line with the saddle. But I wouldn't go any lower than that. Typically I start high. Once I get them up there, get their lower body organized, then I start with, adjusting the handlebars for their upper body.
Yeah.
So have them stand next to the bike, lift their leg closest to the saddle. So we're going to drop this down until,
Despite how tall I am.
in her mind, basketball player, roughly in line with your thigh.
Yep.
And then hop on up there.
Right.
And next would be the heel check. So the key with the saddle height is to, first of all, make sure that their hips are level and in a place that's comfortable on the saddle. And the way they park their butt in that saddle it's like a domino effect, right? It's going to have an impact. They're going to move their stuff around a little bit, but they need to find the place where Their sitting bones are planted where they think they're gonna ride. Remember, it's a big saddle. So I encourage them to find that, put their hands on the handlebars. Because you want their body in the position that they will be riding for the most part during the class. When their heels on the pedal, it's hard to strip people of their flesh when you're doing bike setup, but I try not to look at flesh, I look at skeleton. So think more of like the joints, the big joints in their body, their hip joint, their knee joint, and their ankle joint, because every pedal stroke is really involving those 3 joints. So when their heel is on the pedal, basically you're looking for their ankle bone to be in line with the crank arm. It's the furthest position from the saddle, so it's maximal leg length. And with the heel check, you're looking for a straight leg. So this is too short for Karen. She needs to go up a little bit. Stand up on your saddle, on your pedals. And don't have them get on and off the bike because it just takes too long. I encourage them to just stand up on their pedals. Okay, have a seat. So once she settles down, encourage her to find her place where she'll land, get her sitting bones where she thinks she's going to plant for the most part. Put her heel back on the pedal again, just to check that heel check. Her foot is not, so go ahead and flex really hard. So you don't want to do this, right? They're not jamming it. And also, you don't want to have them like trying to reach for it. It's almost like they would just, if I took her foot off the pedal, she was just dangling her leg from her hip. Okay, so the heel on the pedal, a soft but lengthened leg, not pushing, not pointing, and that usually on almost every stationary bike will give you a really good setup. Okay, now when she puts her foot in the cage or in the clip, depending on if they have clips, it's like magic. Whoa! There's the 25 to 35 degree bend. Now we're not done, but this is leg length. And I think it's really hard sometimes for people to see this when you're rolling your legs.
True. Yep.
So you're like, well, I don't know. What is 25 to 35 degrees? We do know what 90 degrees is, right? Most people know what 45 is. So 90 degree angle, a sharp right angle.
Yep.
45, somewhere here. We need less than that. So we need about 25 to 35 degrees. Most people ride too low. Most people ride too low. And I think they think it's because it's safe. But it really is like walking around with your knees bent all day long, never straightening out. It's like doing a duck walk. Or I was thinking, have you ever sat at a table that is too high?
Yes.
With chairs that are
Yes.
too low?
Yes.
It's this awkward feeling of that. So they're not optimizing the leg length that they have available to them. And I don't know why, but a lot of people ride too low. So in your mind's eye, there are spinning has a spin fit kit. You can use a goniometer if you're familiar with that. There is a technique to using that. But I think it's just really easy. Think at 90 degrees. You know what 45 is. It's got to be a little more open than that. A little more open than that. Okay? That's leg length. Excellent. So go ahead, and then I would just pedal around, let them roll their legs. You can't be right up on top of them, like I was riding right next to her and couldn't see that she was too low. It is a good idea to walk away a little bit and kind of look at her. And we're not done, because I still know she needs to go up too high. While she's rolling her legs, I haven't done her fore and aft. Can you see that she's just a little tight? So let's look at what her fore and aft looks like. Stop your legs, bring your feet to parallel. So now we want to see how far forward and back the saddle should go. Her feet parallel to the floor. You hold, and I would use a plumb line for this. Her foot flat. And now here's the center of the pedal. So she actually still needs to come a little bit forward because the front of her knee, ideally, you want to get that directly over the center of the pedal. So I'm going to have her stand up. And I know that if I'm going to move her a little bit forward, I'm going to have to slide her up a little higher. So I'm going to move her up to 2. And go ahead and settle down. She stops her legs one more time, parallel to the floor. She has her hips level in the saddle. Her foot is flat. Drop the plumb line, and bingo. It's right over top of the center of the pedal. And because I moved her forward, which moves her closer to the pedals, I knew I need to bring her up one. And then I would tell her where I measured, give her a reading afterwards. So she's on F2. right now. And then she can remember that. Now go ahead and pedal. Finally, and you would take, that does take some time. You know, it's a sliding triangle. So now that you feel, and if she was a new rider, I wouldn't ask her, well, how does that feel? They don't know how it's supposed to feel.
I know, and I always do. It's
I
just
do
to
too.
have it, you know.
I do
And
too.
they always go, great.
Yes, of course it feels great.
Woohoo!
Ish.
Right.
But if she's ridden before, she probably knows approximately where, you know, where it should feel. Now, because she has some experience on the bike, then we can start lowering her handlebars, mainly because here she's not, so show the kid like playing piano, pull back and just put your finger. Yeah, you see this pretty often.
Yeah.
And this usually means they don't have the core strength to, you know, to hold that forward flex position, because it does require a fair amount of core strength to find this forward flex position. Or they're leaning into the handlebars too much. So show where, and they usually, yeah, and their arms are usually straight.
Yeah, like this, and the
they're-
wrists are down.
Exactly.
Or they try to do this.
Yes. So it's either too much body weight here, where they're pushing the handlebars away because they're not comfortable being there, or it's not enough.
Yeah, that's, okay.
But she looks pretty comfortable. Her wrists are neutral, her elbows are soft, she's not collapsed in her chest. And basically, remember I mentioned the joints. So here, you're looking for, you know, comfort. It's not there may be an actual degree, but there should be some hip flexions. Because she's comfortable in her upper body, she's got the core strength to be there, we could close this angle a little bit by lowering her handlebars. So, and again, I think she's going to be fine there, about in line with her saddle, and then go ahead and roll. And you see how that just gave her more hip flexion? And the key here is the more she flexes forward, assuming that she can sustain and hold that position without collapsing, you know, her upper back, without collapsing her chest, pushing the handlebars away, or sinking into it, and that would be a little too much usually. Straight arms, let your shoulder blades come together. Yeah, so you see this pretty often. Do you agree?
That's weird. Yeah, yeah,
It
yeah.
does
It feels
happen
so
though.
weird, but
People
yeah.
just collapse
Yeah.
their shoulder blades together.
Yeah.
So, you know, she's got good organization going on here, and when we add this little bit more flexion by lowering the handlebars, not too much, but we lower them a little bit, then she has to use her glutes. Those are your hip extensors. When you have more hip flexion, your hip extensors have to work through a greater range of motion and with greater engagement to open up.
See, that's why I'm not in the shape I think I should be back there.
Of course you would.
Because I was too low.
And how does that feel? Is that about where
It's
you-
perfect. And when I said I adjusted mine 2 notches up, it was on F.
F?
And this is F. And I won't forget F.
F2, baby.
F2.
I won't go any further than that. Yeah, so that's the longer bike setup, and sometimes even in a long bike setup, we use, you know, if you have a group of 5 or 6,
Yep.
they can still all understand and walk through it together. Like, here's the heel check. You want to dangle your leg.
Yep.
So then they have those cheats when they come into
Yeah.
class.
So thanks, Pam. Thanks, Fives folks. Next time, what we're going to do is give you the short setup, and that's for those times where riders come in and there's like 1 or 2 minutes to go before class, and they jump on the bike, and you really do have to do something about it. So we'll take you through that scenario.
Yeah.
So thanks for tuning in, and as always,
Stay awesome.
stay awesome.